Another week, another disastrous set of polls for Democrats. Forget about being in the toilet. They're in the septic tank, my friends. I'm sorry, I'm doing my Harry Anton. See here, see? I'll show you the numbers, see? We'll give you all the glorious details coming up in a moment. And we're going to explore why Democrats aren't winning. J.D. Vance has an idea about that. We'll take a look. Also, Kamala Harris now has a book. We'll dissect how important that's going to be to the American political narrative. And, ladies and gentlemen, Joe Biden is back. He delivered a speech of sorts. Well, he screamed a speech the other day, last night, in fact, and he had lots of incoherence that we're going to try to make a coherence out of. Trust me, that sentence I just said, way more understandable than anything Joe Biden did. We're going to give you all the details coming up in just a moment. We're brought to you by our friends at The Lion. My name is Larry O'Connor, and you can call me Larry. Do not forget to like and subscribe this video. Please be a part of our team, be a part of our family, our community. In fact, we're going to do some fun community-only stuff coming up here when we hit our 600,000 subscriber number, which is, well, right around the corner. We're on the brink. In fact, based on the pace, could be at the end of this month. So subscribe and tell a friend. Thanks. Hey, if you care about staying sharp and informed, make The Lion part of your daily routine. Published by the Herzog Foundation, The Lion covers the headlines that matter, from politics and policy to culture and faith, all through common sense, values-driven lenses. It's the kind of journalism that goes beyond the surface, offering the context and clarity today's news demands. Whether you're tracking big national stories or you want to know what's happening in schools, state houses, and communities across the country, The Lion delivers smart, well-sourced reporting you're not going to find anywhere else. Visit readlion.com to catch up on the latest must-read stories and sign up for The Lion's daily and weekly newsletters while you're there. That's readlion.com, news that informs and respects your worldview. Well, we've got some disastrous polls for Democrats right now. And strangely, it comes right around the same time Kamala Harris has now reemerged. She's got a book. She went on Colbert. That's right. One failed canceled loser interviewing another failed canceled loser. And she was asked a very simple question. Who leads the Democrat Party right now? And her answer was worse than you'd expect. We'll get to that coming up in a second. But first, to the polls. CNN, Harry Anton, it's bad. It's really bad. It's awful. Let's enjoy.
Democrats at this point are historically divided. It is a complete and utter mess. It is messier than a hoarder's basement. What are we talking about here? The national early poll leader, 25% plus. Normally, that's where Democrats are. Biden was at 25% plus in 2020. Hillary Clinton was in 08 and 16. Gore was in 00 and 04. At this particular point, there is no one in the Democratic race for president who's polling at 25% plus. The water is quite warm. If you're a Democrat potentially thinking about running in 2028, jump right in, because at this point, there is no front runner.
What do you think? Is that because how people view the Democratic Party right now, is that contributing to this?
Yeah, I think that is in large part of what's going on, is one of the reasons why there is no front runner. Nobody wants to put anybody up at the top of their ballot list, is because at this particular point, the Democratic brand is in the basement. It is total and complete garbage in the mind of the American public. The Democratic Party's net favorable rating, record lows in all three. Wall Street Journal, 30 points underwater. CNN, 26 points underwater. Gallup, 26 points underwater. And that is being driven in large part by discontent within the Democratic base. The Democratic base wants something different. We'll ultimately end up seeing who they choose. It'll be quite the thing who ultimately gets the rose.
Yeah.
Okay, so sure, that's bad news. It is. It's true. It's horrible news. They're in the sewer, I tell you. However, let's just pause for a second. It can't be that bad. I mean, after all, Kamala Harris just enjoyed some of the most incredibly positive media any politician will ever enjoy. She was barely roughed up by any of the legacy corporate brands. She got endorsements from people from Beyonce to Taylor Swift to the mainstream media, pop culture, academia, the music industry. They were all lined up for her. And after all, she only had 107 days to run for president. That's literally the name of her book. We'll talk about that in a second. So clearly, when you bring Kamala Harris into the mix specifically, not as the Democrat brand, but just as herself, this transcendent political figure that we should all feel fortunate to have walk amongst us at this time in history, clearly the numbers are better, right? Right?
She wants to run in 2028. What are the numbers that you're seeing about this right now?
Yeah, I would just say hold your horses here. The chance that Kamala Harris is going to be the 2028 Democratic nominee, they don't look too good right now, to be perfectly honest with you. Chance of being the 2028 Democratic nominee.
Don't you do the caveat of like what year we're currently in?
I believe we're in 2025, though. It kind of feels like 2045. There have been so many years in just one so far. Look, Gavin Newsom is the favorite at 20%, according to the betting markets. Do not sleep on Ocasio-Cortez. AOC right up there at 15%. Buttigieg 9%. Shapiro 6%. Harris all the way down at 6%, basically in a tie for fourth place at this particular point. So if you have any ideas that Kamala Harris is passing up a potential gubernatorial run-in for 2026 in California and perhaps would be trading up for a presidential bid, the betting markets at this point, simply put, do not buy it.
All right, let's bring in our friend, morning radio host across the Salem Radio Network, and of course, seen on every device that you hold near and dear to your heart, Salem News Channel's own Chris Stigall. Chris, thanks for joining us from the heartland. Look at that image real fast, if we can bring it back up, Kevin. Gavin Newsom, 20, AOC, 15, Buttigieg, Shapiro. Kamala Harris is all the way down in fifth place at 6%. It was just a few months ago, Chris, that the Democrats unanimously decided that she was the right person to be president. What happened?
Yeah, you kind of get the impression that maybe that was never all that organic excitement to begin with. Yeah, maybe that was always sort of preconceived. I'm glad you picked up on Harry Enton. Does he become more vaudevillian with every broadcast?
Yeah. Yes, the Cagney-esque aspect of how he delivers is quite.
Why is he doing an act like shtick, like a dialect? What is that exactly? He's just a pollster.
We all need our brand. You decided to shave your head. You know, we all have our thing.
Take a look at these numbers. It feels like he's about to sell me some snake oil or something, which maybe that's CNN. I don't know. Look at these numbers. Yeah. What the hell is he? Like a 1930s agent?
Do you think the damage to the Democrat brand is it because Trump is so relentless in going after them and pointing out their flaws? Is it because he's sort of forced them to defend the indefensible with these 80-20 issues we talk about so much? Or is there something else at play here? Is it really just because they don't have a leader, and as soon as the next Barack Obama comes by, they'll be fine?
I'm not sure they'll ever find that person again, because what they clearly seem to think, and Jasmine Crockett said it, I think just this week or last, she said, I should lead the subcommittee because I have the most Instagram followers. Right. Or Cory Booker and his theatrics, which I know you're going to talk about. They think that being performative is leading. They truly tell themselves this. They're not offering anything. They're just, if we get loud enough, if we scream enough, maybe if we swear, if we get mad about Sydney Sweeney being in a jeans ad, it's stuff no one cares about. They don't seem remotely serious about anything. So they just think if they yell louder, maybe that'll work. I don't know that a Barack Obama would be welcome, quite frankly. I mean, well, we see he was very condescending with them, and we see how he was treated too. So I'm not sure.
It goes back to Bill Clinton when they decided cult of personality and all of this, oh gosh, he plays the saxophone on Arsenio Hall. He stands for something, he means something, and that touches me emotionally. That worked a few times for them. But I don't think it works anymore when at the bottom line here, you have to be about something, not just like, for instance, this last time, they were just against Donald Trump. In fact, that's all they've been for the last 10 years. But I couldn't tell you what they stand for other than very unpopular and ineffective policies.
Well, and to your point, when you said 80-20 issues, it's when you're defending illegal alien criminals, as Maryland dads and having margaritas with them, it's just such a bad look. You're storming into press conferences, making scenes when Trump is trying to crack down on illegal aliens and close the border. They're dying on the weirdest hills. They're dying on, butchering our children, and they're dying on Palestinian protests on college campuses. I mean, they're dying on these really whacked out hills. It's not like 50-50 issues.
And they keep saying their problem is just messaging. We're just not cutting through. It's not, get a new podcast. We need a Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
Listen, take a look at this. They've had their Joe Rogan. His name is Stephen Colbert. He has a great budget to work with, by the way. We wish we had literally 1/10 of his budget. Stephen Colbert last night had Kamala Harris on and asked what should have been a pretty good softball question for the woman who was just the nominee for the party. And that was, who is the leader now for the Democrats? And, well, take a look at how she answered.
Who's leading the Democratic Party? I'm just curious.
There are lots of leaders. There are a lot. I'm not going to go through names because then I'm going to leave somebody out and then I'm going to hear about it. It is a mistake for us who want to figure out how to get out and through this and get out of it to put it on the shoulders of any one person. It's really on all of our shoulders.
Oh, God, she got applause for that. I can't. I got to watch that word salad one more time and then let Chris... Look at your face. Let's just, because this is so profound, Chris. We are so lucky to have her in our midst. Just watch it one more time.
For us who want to figure out how to get out and through this and get out of it, to put it on the shoulders of any one person. It's really on all of our shoulders.
Yeah, you speak moron, don't you, Chris? Could you translate that
Yeah, get out of what? First of all, if they're in anything, isn't she the one that put them in it? I mean,
thank you.
Like, she talks about it like she just showed up. What is?
Yeah.
We're stuck in it. If it's the collective we're stuck in something. It's because you drove us here, lady. You're the immediate past leader of the party. Yeah, and then babbling on. And then I know there was I just media a little while ago, more of that lovely cackle that we've missed, telling jokes that no one understands as she cackles miserably and everybody kind of wonders why. And then the applause light goes off, telling the audience help her because she's dying. The show, I mean, boy, and if ever this wasn't a demonstration as to why Stephen Colbert's days are numbered, I mean, it's just good grief. As you said, if you had 1/10 of his budget, if you had that audience, if you had that soundstage, if you had that network, imagine what you and I could do with it.
Oh, that's why they won't let us have it, by the way. All right. Good news, though. Kamala Harris is taking a leading role here because she announced yesterday, within 12 hours of deciding that she's not going to run for governor of California, hey, look, everyone, I've got a book. Watch this video. This is what she put out there announcing the book. And you tell me, is she really selling a book and the contents of the book? Or is she asking for your vote? Or is she promising you some sort of revelatory inspiration that she's going to write in the book? Or you tell me, what exactly is the pitch here? And maybe Chris can answer.
Just over a year ago, I launched my campaign for president of the United States. 107 days, traveling the country, fighting for our future. The shortest presidential campaign in modern history. It was intense, high stakes, and deeply personal for me and for so many of you. Since leaving office, I've spent a lot of time reflecting on those days, talking with my team, my family, my friends, and pulling my thoughts together. In essence, writing a journal that is this book, 107 Days. With candor and reflection, I've written a behind-the-scenes account of that journey. I believe there's value in sharing what I saw, what I learned, and what I know it will take to move forward. In writing this book, one truth kept coming back to me. Sometimes the fight takes a while, but I remain full of hope, and I remain clear-eyed. I will never stop fighting to make our country reflect the very best of its ideals, always on behalf of the people. So thank you for being in this fight with me. I am forever grateful. And I cannot wait for you to read this. And I'll see you out there. Take care.
Well, just to be clear, she doesn't care if you read it. She just wants to make sure you buy it. That's actually the most important part of this. But Chris, did you make any heads or tails out of what exactly was that? What did she say?
If you put it on mute and looked at it, it would appear that she's selling you a split-level ranch.
No, that's way too tangible. Are
Yeah.
you kidding? At least
It
you got
was
an asset at the
I
end.
really, I did. I felt like it was a real estate ad. It looked like she was. Could I interest you in one of our 4 bedrooms?
I mean, this is kind of the old Century 21 blazer, isn't it?
It is.
Right?
And,
Remember Century 21 real estate?
but I hate to joke about her being in uniform because I know that get you fired. But
yeah,
anyway, I won't go there. 107 days. That was, it's interesting. I didn't hear the title yesterday. I did ask some of my audience if they had titles, and these are just some of theirs. I won't take credit for any of these, but some of my audience came up with Yesterday is Today as a possible title. Unburdened by What Has Been, I thought was a good one, right?
I was hoping that's what it would be. Yeah.
I don't understand this one. How I Blew It Again. Don't understand.
Is that with a foreword by Willie Brown?
No.
Yeah.
I've never been to Europe. I like that one. Here's a neighboring one. I sucked again, but it didn't work this time. I still don't understand what that.
Yeah,
what
that
is,
one doesn't make any sense to me.
excuse me, I'm speaking, and I grew up in a middle-class household. All possible titles that didn't make it.
I'm sure there will be at least a chapter named that. There's a clue here, though, that I'm going to move straight on. 107 days, and then she reemphasized shortest campaign in modern history. The title of this book is One Giant Excuse, isn't it? She's actually trying to say, well, I would have won if I had had more time. But first of all, do you agree? Is that what's sort of in play here?
Well, that's right. It gives her the out. If I just had more run-up time, I mean, $1 billion couldn't get it done. I needed more days.
Thank you.
But don't forget, there's Biden out there who they pushed him up to June to debate. I mean, that's unprecedented. So she actually had much more time if they were deciding to ditch Biden. Biden still tells himself that he should have stuck around and he could have won had it not been. So it's interesting. You have 2 people who tell themselves they were both winners, but for the circumstances someone else did to them. That's their running theme. Yeah.
Neither of us have ever run for political office, certainly not the presidency, but we interview a lot of candidates at various times. And I suspect, knowing the presidential candidates that I've had conversations with, if you pose to them, all right, you got 2 scenarios. You either start raising money 2 years before Election Day. You have to go all over Iowa and New Hampshire. You got to do every primary, every caucus. You got to fight and claw your way to the convention, and then you're the nominee. Or the second scenario is you're handed the nomination right before the convention. You've got $1 billion in the bank, an entire campaign infrastructure already built for you, and you don't have to run in any primary or caucuses. The only downside is you only have 107 days to Election Day. Which would you rather choose? What's your money on there, Chris?
You're completely right. Just last night I was at a fundraiser with a state Senate candidate who just launched his campaign to run in a primary next May.
Yeah.
A state Senate candidate. And I was sitting there thinking last night while I was emceeing it, this poor guy. I mean, he's young. So I was like, good for him. But to your point, he and his young team for a state Senate seat are getting ready to grind the most grueling fight just to get to a May primary. Yep. You're exactly right. Any candidate would say, oh, well, just hand me all the stuff right now. $1 billion and 107 days.
Quintessential Kamala Harris is that every gift that she is given, every advantage she is given that she did nothing to earn, she actually pretends is a burden of some sort and a handicap.
She wants to be unburdened by what has been. I'm not even really sure she wasn't gifted the vice presidency. Truthfully, I will never be convinced Joe Biden wanted to pick her. I think Barack had a lot to do with that too, don't you?
All right. If you didn't like that video promoting her book, that's fine. It probably means you're a boomer or a Gen Xer or one of those old farts. So good news for you. Kamala has put together a hip, trendy TikTok video to promote the book. It's directly geared toward the Zoomers and some of those young millennials. All right. And I'm sure you're going to like this one better. Check it out, everybody. This will float your boat.
Everyone thinks you've been kicking back, drinking margaritas on the beach. But really, you've been hard at work writing a book, meeting with leaders, thinking about the future of our country. Who said that?
Well, Chris, are you inspired by that one? Because that is so natural, so effortless, and so hip.
Is this, do the kids like this?
Apparently Apparently they
I
do.
don't spend
It's
enough time on
popular in
TikTok to
rap
even know the
songs.
reference, but okay, if that's what it takes, then is there anything more uncomfortable than watching old people try to do young people things? I gave up on that a long time ago. My kids, my 16-year-old daughter, you take her shopping, you just let her out at the curb and you wait. She doesn't want to, never mind try to do hip things they're doing on TikTok. Boy, that's unfortunate. Do you think at any point any of them ever just say to their handlers, I don't want to do this. I'll look foolish. There's no way this goes well. Or do they think they can be hip?
Yeah, I think if JD Vance was coaxed by one of his handlers to try to do something like that, he'd go, yeah, that's not my thing.
Yeah, like you just say no. Just say I don't need to try to pretend it's the stupid bag of chips and the the Doritos stuff with Tim Walz. Where's the chips? It's
Right,
John
exactly.
Kerry. Can I get me a
Rat
hunting
summer all
license?
over again. I know
It's so embarrassing.
shocking that she's running 6th right now amongst Democrats. Absolutely shocking. Well, we're not tired of the winning. Are you, Chris?
No, never.
And even better, I'm not tired of their losing. Chris Stigall, thank you. I can hear you. I can see you. There's no secrets. It's not working. We have an older, wiser demographic anyway. We don't need the TikTok.
You have a much younger wife, though.
Younger than what exactly? Don't. Bye, Chris. Thanks for joining us. Get him back for that one. He was actually the best man at my wedding. A lot of people don't know that. So he knows better than anyone how amazing my wife is. I'm kind of young. Hey, if you care about the direction of this country, you need to be reading The Lion, published by the Herzog Foundation, the national leader in Christian education. The Lion is an award-winning news site delivering sharp, timely reporting on what's really happening in America's schools, culture, and government. It's the kind of journalism that cuts through the noise and gives you the full picture, especially when it comes to the growing movement toward Christ-centered education. But The Lion goes beyond the classrooms. It covers parenting, faith, freedom, cultural battles shaping our future. All the things we talk about and care about right here every day. Just like its namesake, The Lion embodies strength and courage, standing firm in a landscape where too many have surrendered our children's future to the left's ideology. Not The Lion, not Herzog Foundation. Visit readlion.com. Sign up for the daily or weekly newsletter while you're there. That's readlion.com. Clarity, courage, and news that keeps you informed and equipped. A lot of people think that Wes Moore, the governor of Maryland, is going to be the Democrats' nominee for president next time around. None other than George Clooney thinks that. He name-dropped Wes Moore when he was being interviewed by CNN the other day. So, let's take a look at Wes Moore. I happen to live in his state. He's my governor, and he's running for re-election right now. And I can tell you, he doesn't talk to the media. He doesn't give interviews unless it's, a full body massage by George Stephanopoulos or Jake Tapper. He doesn't actually answer tough questions. But check it out. Wes Moore sat for a long-form, really important, really combative, hard-hitting interview on this podcast. Wait, I'm sorry, what? Oh, I got that wrong. He did sit for a podcast, but the host was the former chairman of the Democrat National Committee. So, yeah, there weren't any tough questions. But he did say something very interesting about why Black voters, specifically Black men, have started to vote for Trump and for Republicans. Take a look at this.
Address the issue. I think we've got to start making sure that this is not something that we're doing because of an electoral strategy, but something that we're doing because we actually care about the prospects, because it is true that we have a justice system that has been targeting and weighted against Black men. We have an education system that has been deliberate about the way that we are criminalizing and punishing Black boys when we're watching the results of our young Black boys continue to downgrade, and we are actually then turning around and blaming the Black boys for their failure. Not the system, not the structure, but the young men.
Yeah.
Blaming them. We do have a system of employment where we make it more difficult for Black men to be able to enter into the employment market. We do have a system that makes basically every sentence a life sentence, that when someone comes back from incarceration, we make it deeply challenging for them to be able to get public housing, challenging for them to be able to get a student loan, challenging for them to get a home loan, challenging for them to reintegrate with their families. And then we wonder what's going on with the black men and why they're not voting for us.
Oh, man.
Okay. That's Wes Moore. And as you can imagine, I have a lot to say about the 67 seconds we just watched together. For the purposes of this podcast segment, by the way, I might now and again refer to Wes Moore as Timu Obama. I know people think Hakeem Jeffries is Timu Obama, but no. No one thinks Hakeem Jeffries can be president of the United States. No one's grooming him to be their puppet in the Oval Office. But this guy, oh, hell yeah. He's your Timu Obama. Let's start at the beginning, shall we? And I want you to bear in mind that both men sitting at this table having this conversation are, in fact, black men, black Americans, African Americans who were born in this country as black men, raised in this country, and have now succeeded at a pretty high level. One of them, the host of the show, the chairman of the Democrat National Committee. The other one is now the governor of one of our 50 states, one of our original colonies, Maryland. So these are black men who have succeeded quite robustly and impressively in this country. Bear that in mind as you hear them talk about what a racist nation this is.
Address the issue. I think we've got to start making sure that this is not something that we're doing because of an electoral strategy, but something that we're doing because we actually care about the prospects.
Okay, let's just be clear here. By saying we, he's talking about Democrats, obviously, because he's one, and the person he's talking to is the former chairman of the party. So he's pointing out the fact that in the past, when they talk about racial issues and racial divisions and systemic racism in our education system and in our criminal justice system, we have only been using it as an electoral strategy to get votes. He's condemning his own party here by admitting that. No one else will point that out because they use the royal we as if it's really just, you know, those crazy racist Republicans and conservatives in this country. But who's we here? Who's we? It's the Democrats. All right, more.
You know, because it is true that we have a justice system that has been targeting and weighted against black men. We have an education system that has been deliberate about the way that we are criminalizing and punishing black boys when we're watching the results of our young black boys continue to downgrade, and we are actually then turning around and blaming the black boys for their failure.
All right, now let me just be clear here. He just made quite an accusation that our criminal justice system is targeting black men, targeting them, going after them, saying, let's go find us some black men and prosecute them and throw them in jail. And that our education system is specifically targeting black boys in our schools, punishing them, and then putting them on the path for failure. All right. Now, just so you know, there's nothing new here. The left and Democrats have been saying this for decades, and it was quite robust under the Obama administration as they tried to reformat the way our school systems treated people of color who were getting into trouble. Disciplinary actions were set aside and squelched at the school system level, thanks to the Arne Duncan, the education secretary under Barack Obama, that allowed, if you broke the rules or got in trouble in school, if you were a person of color, you were granted leniency, because the idea was if you get in trouble at school and you get expelled, then that puts you on the path to prison. It was the schoolroom to cell block sort of revolving door that they claimed occurred, and they were trying to get rid of it. But it is all based on the idea that there is systemic built-in racism in those two systems. Okay. I just got to ask a few questions. I always like to pretend that I'm the podcast host during this interview. So, Governor Moore, let me just pause for a second there. You're the governor of Maryland. Maryland has been dominated by Democrats in the state house and in the state legislature for about 80 years. Once in a while, you get a Republican governor. But if both of those systems exist in your state that you're in charge of right now, who are you going to blame? Who's been in charge? And you talk about the education system. The education system in America is the American Federation of Teachers. It is the National Education Association, the teachers unions, and they have been in bed with your party for 6 decades now. Democrats have been able to call the shots in how our schools are run at the national level, all the way down to most school district levels. So if you're right, and you began this statement by saying it is true that this racism exists in all of these systems, then who's to blame for that? And now you expect us to elect you and the apparatus around you, like those teachers' unions, etc., who have created these racist systems, because you're the one to fix it? And one other thing, though, let me follow up here. Finish your thought, Governor Moore. I'm sorry for getting in the way there with some facts and logic.
Not the system, not the structure, but the young men.
Yeah.
Blaming them. We do have a system of employment where we make it more difficult for Black men to be able to enter into the employment market. We do have a system that makes basically every sentence a life sentence, that when someone comes back from incarceration, we make it deeply challenging for them to be able to get public housing, challenging for them to be able to get a student loan, challenging for them to get a home loan, challenging for them to reintegrate with their families. And then we wonder what's going on with the Black men and why they're not voting for us.
I want to tell you, I love at the very end there, he says, and we wonder why they're now voting for Trump. He's stumbled onto the truth there. Because you see, Black men are not as stupid and naive and as gullible as these two would like to think that they are. And they have looked at the last several decades of futility, voting for the same party that created these systems, and then that party saying, we're going to fix that system, and then they never actually do anything about it. No, they finally said, you know what? You're lying to me. You've been lying to me. In fact, I reject the premise that these systems are set up against me because of the color of my skin. I think that you want me to believe that, because then that puts me in a hopeless, dependent position where I need you to be my savior. Trump ain't promising to be my savior. He's promising to empower me and let me actually explore my excellence outside of the confines of government structure, trying to tell me who I am and what my limitations are. So yeah, I am going to vote for possibilities and hope and opportunities instead of you, who are asking me to continue to put faith in the government that will fix all of the problems that they have caused, that you are admitting they caused. So yes, he has stumbled on the truth there at the end, although he doesn't quite understand how we got here. But let me also ask this. Both of these men, through Wes Moore's passionate monologue there and Jamie Harrison, the former chairman of the DNC's affirmation, are now stating that this country is hopelessly racist in the criminal justice system, and our education system, and Wes Moore just painted out exactly how vicious and horrible that cycle is. Gentlemen, can I please ask you, how did you escape? How did you transcend that racism? What makes you so special? You're both Black men. How is it you were not bogged down by those horribly racist systems that don't give a Black man a shot in this country? That are in fact stacked up and created specifically to predetermine the failure of a Black man. How is it you two men survived this racist system? Are you just that incredible? Are you that transcendently special? Are you God's gift to America that you were so anointed that you were able to transcend these racist systems that were set up for your failure? You must believe that. You must believe that to hear Wes Moore in this charming fashion with his big, magnetic, market researched, Madison Avenue approved smile tell you how racist this country is. You must believe that he is just that incredible and that special and that amazing that he somehow didn't get affected by that. Or you could look at the facts. You see, Wes Moore is an incredibly wealthy man, thanks to an investment firm that he set up and a foundation, the Robin Hood Foundation, I think they call it, although there needs to be a lot of investigative journalism into where all that money came from and how it's been invested, number one. But number two, here's the funny thing. When Wes Moore was a child, he was in trouble, he was failing, and his parents saved him and sent him to a private school, where he got a private school education and then ended up having a military career where he joined the United States Army, became an officer, served our country, and was on the right path for being a success in this nation. So you see, there is a path for young Black men to actually be just as successful as Wes Moore. And you don't have to have his anointing from God. You don't have to have his transcendent supernatural abilities or anything like that. You need to get out of the public school system that he and his party have created. Go to a private school, get a good, solid education based in morals and ethics and values, and then begin your career with a disciplined focus like the military provides. And then, more often than not, you're going to be on the right path for success in this country. And guess what? That's true of people who aren't Black as well. But the real irony here is if you're in Maryland, Westmore State, and you want to set up a school choice program so that parents can be empowered to do for their children exactly what Wes Moore's parents were able to do for him, Wes Moore says no. Wes Moore says pound sand. No, you know what? Wes Moore says go f yourself. You're stuck on the plantation that I have created with my friends in the teachers' unions, and you're not going to get a damn chance to do a damn thing. But Wes Moore, my friends, has a magnetic smile and a gleaming bald head, and he is really good at online videos, and he's one of your front runners for 2028. Looking beyond Wes Moore's perspective on where things are right now in this country, let's also focus on why Democrats aren't doing well. Here's a perfect snapshot. In Cincinnati, where the poor couple got beaten by a group of thugs in the middle of the street, and it took forever for the city to respond. And the one admonition that everybody heard from the police chief was, how dare you put videos on social media? Don't show people what happened. That's making our job harder. Where everyone bent over backwards to say that there was any racial element involved in the entire thing, where all the elected officials in Cincinnati are actually giving deference and benefit of the doubt to the perpetrators of that crime instead of the actual victims of the crime. When most Americans, regardless of color, see that and are horrified by it, here's the mother of one of the people who was arrested on local news. She is being apologized for and protected by Democrats right now because they love pushing those race buttons. Watch.
On the video, he said, you want to mess with these Russians? And he smacked the first guy, but it wasn't like they thugs. My child is in school. He had 5 kids. He's on the B honor roll in school. And he's not the thug that they put out in there to be.
Now, if you remember, Chief Terry Thiege.
So my son's not a thug, even though they saw him on video taunting a guy and then punching him in the face. My son is not a thug. And if you are a Democrat elected official right now or somebody who wants to run for office with the D after your name, you have to affirm that message. In fact, you have to say that anyone who calls that man a thug is a racist. And as long as those are the rules that the Democrats have to live by within the confines of their politically correct woke party and the speech police, and having to check all logic and natural instinctive sensibilities at the door before you walk into the room and have a normal conversation with the person, as long as you can't call a thug, they're going to lose. But we've got more evidence as to why they're flailing right now. Check out this leading light for the Democrat Party who engaged in an interview with Politico. The Democrat is a congressperson on the right there, pretending to be a woman, but that in fact is a man. But y'all have to pretend that he's a woman.
Rahm Emanuel was recently asked by Megyn Kelly whether a man could become a woman, and he said no. Gavin Newsom recently said that he believes transgender athletes shouldn't compete in women's sports.
I do believe that those statements have been overcorrections, yes. I don't believe that is the place we need to go.
Rahm Emanuel.
There you go. So Rahm Emanuel, who finally came forth with Megyn Kelly and said, no, a man can't become a woman. He's the problem. you see. He will get smacked down. We knew this was coming. You have to show respect to the man who grows out long hair, puts on a dress, and chemically alters their voice through hormone therapy to try to sound like a woman. And if you can't affirm that that is in fact a genuine woman, despite the you have no place in the Democrat Party. That might be also an indication why they're having trouble. Wes Moore might want to look at that too. And while we're at it, they're getting some free advice from an unlikely place. This comes from J.D. Vance, sitting with our pals over on the Ruthless podcast. He had an opinion about why Democrats are having trouble right now. Maybe Wes Moore should look at this too.
I want to start with probably the most important discussion happening in our country today, which is Sydney Sweeney.
Yeah.
So the Democrats have essentially been like, Sydney Sweeney represents like a Nazi white supremacy issue. Do you think it's that deep? And do you think attacking Sydney Sweeney is how they can win back young males?
Is that a good move?
Yeah, my political advice to the Democrats is continue to tell everybody who thinks Sydney Sweeney is attractive is a Nazi. that appears to be their actual strategy. I mean, it actually reveals something pretty interesting about the Dems, though, which is that you have like a normal all-American beautiful girl doing like a normal jeans ad, right? They're trying to sell jeans to kids in America, and they have managed to so unhinge themselves over this thing. And it's like, you guys, did you learn nothing from the November 2024 election? Like, I actually thought that one of the lessons they might take is we're going to be less crazy. The lesson they have apparently taken is we're going to attack people as Nazis for thinking Sydney Sweeney is beautiful. Great strategy, guys. That's how you're going to win the midterms, especially young American men.
Their course correction lasted about 30 seconds.
That's right. Lasted 30 seconds. Somehow has gotten even crazier. But again, it's just so much of the Democrats is oriented around hostility to basic American life. So you have a pretty girl doing a jeans ad and they can't help but freak out. It reveals a lot more about them than it does us.
Yes, it really does. So Wes Moore is saying, hey, it's no wonder black men aren't voting for us because of all of this racism that he pretends is there, when in fact, going through that litany of racism as he's a successful black man and somehow he transcended it all is actually the reason why black men aren't voting for them. And then you've got the dude dressing up like a woman who says, oh, we can't overcorrect and we can't say that a man can't become a woman. And then at the same time, pine for the days when men were voting for Democrats. Now you've got Sydney Sweeney. She's a Nazi because she's beautiful. And again, they still wonder why men aren't voting for Democrats. And then finally, there's this, a real moment of clarity. Chris Cuomo on his News Nation show now has begun taking phone calls. And that's a good thing. I've often said as a talk radio host or as a podcast streamer like I am now, that wouldn't it be great for you, like on a talk radio show, to be able to call up Anderson Cooper and tell him how wrong he is? Because that's what I do on my radio show. Or like right here, where as you're watching, you can put in our live chat how you disagree, or you can engage in a conversation with other viewers about how they disagree in the comments section. Well, suddenly Chris Cuomo's doing that on his News Nation show, and watch what happened on a recent episode.
I'm not too proud to say that I am wrong about Trump. I'm a proud Democrat.
How so?
And he's done a lot of things. Immigration. I'm happy about what's happening with immigration. I thought the stock market would tank, and I'm pretty happy with my 401k. There's a few things that I just thought things would go wrong, and I'm very happy.
Well, that is big of you to say. It'll probably lose you some friends in this polarized environment that we're in right now. But there's nothing wrong with being happy with results, no matter who gives them to you, right? So I appreciate your candor. Next.
You know, that is an amazing moment, by the way. And hearing this woman say, I'm a Democrat, I didn't vote for Trump, and I'm happy to say that I was wrong because all of these things that he's doing are working. But Chris Cuomo couldn't help himself. Chris Cuomo likes to pretend that he's turned the corner. He's different now that he's not on CNN. And no, he's still a party hack. He's still a Democrat. For God's sake, it's in his blood. His dad was the Democrat governor of New York. His brother was the Democrat governor of New York. He is a Democrat. He just works in the media trying to help the party. And what did he say there? What did he say there? Well, that'll probably lose you some friends. And guess what? That's another reason why Democrats are losing. Because even when this nice old lady, Chrissy from Arizona, calls in and says, gosh, Trump isn't that bad. He was actually good and the things he's doing are good. They immediately get told that they're going to lose friends because of it. Because they're being honest and showing humility and actually acknowledging that, Trump has actually done some good things. And then they'll wring their hands and lament how we've lost civility in our society whenever politics comes up. Well, there you have it. From Westmore to the man dressing like a woman in the Congress, to Sydney Sweeney, to Chris Cuomo dealing with a caller who's just being honest with him on his show. We've got example after example after example why people are no longer wanting to vote for the Democrats. And until they figure all of that out, well, we're going to continue down this road, and we're fine with that. We're really fine with that. Hey, if you care about staying sharp and informed, make The Lion part of your daily routine. They're published by the Herzog Foundation. The Lion covers the headlines that matter, from politics and policy to culture and faith, all through a common sense, values-driven lens. It's the kind of journalism that goes beyond the surface, offering why did I lose my place? Beyond the surface, offering the context and clarity today's news demands. Whether you're tracking big national stories or you want to know what's happening in schools, state houses, and communities around the country, The Lion delivers smart, well-sourced reporting you won't find anywhere else. So go over to readlion.com, readlion.com, and while you're there, sign up for the daily and weekly newsletters. That's readlion.com, news that informs and respects your worldview. Well, Joe Biden is back. He got rolled out to give a speech to the American Bar Association, I think it is. That's actually a group of black lawyers, black attorneys. Joe Biden, before he was president of the United States, he was the chairman of the Judiciary Committee. And that's why he was invited to this, because he's got an old relationship with these guys. They often give him money. So he came out for his speech. And there was a lot that was revealed that we're going to show you. And he was awful, of course, and we're going to have fun making fun of him there. He looked like a cadaver. But there was one moment where he was bragging about his civil rights track record, where it sounded like he admitted, no. He bragged that Kamala Harris was a DEI hire. And we're going to show you that in just a second. But first, here is the electrifying moment when Joe Biden, dressed up in a tuxedo and looking super strong and healthy, entered the room. Take a look at this.
Do you have that clip, Larry?
On with us for just a second here. Let's listen to the applause. And he brought his granddaughters to celebrate with him. Please be seated.
All right, so maybe there's something wrong with the microphones here, but did the anchor say, let's jump in here and listen to the applause? I think he said, let's listen to the applause. Okay, let's do that again. Let's listen to the applause. Hold on, I want to hear the anchor say, let's listen to the applause.
There he is. Ben, hold on with us for just a second here. Let's listen to the applause.
Yes, so let's listen to the applause.
And he brought his granddaughters to celebrate with him.
I mean, there was a little bit of applause, I suppose. I guess. Well, hardly the reception that you think a former president gets. Also, he didn't bring his granddaughters with him. He brought his granddaughters who were getting paid to be his physical aides and help him up the stairs and walk to where he's supposed to go. It's actually their job. Okay, Biden takes the podium. And again, I got to say, he looks great for a man who's been dead 4 years. Honestly, I'm sorry. And it's not even age. For God's sake, there's plenty of people who are older than him that look better. This is not an age thing. He looks like a dead body. Is it the lighting? Is it the makeup? I don't know. But he looks like at the end of the speech, they're going to wheel him into a medical school so that the students in the surgery department can practice on him. All right? With all due respect. All right, here's a little bit more of President Biden.
We see the apparent glee some of our politicians express while watching immigrants who are in this country legally torn from the arms of their family, dragged away in handcuffs from the only home they've ever known. My friends, we need to face the hard truth of this administration. It has been to ease all the gains we've made in my administration, to erase history rather than make it, to erase fairness, equality, to erase justice itself. And that's not hyperbole, that's a fact.
That's a fact. You know, usually when a politician says, and that's not hyperbole, especially when it's Joe Biden, that's not hyperbole, it means it is in fact hyperbole. In fact, and in this case, it is hyperbole. And when he says it's a fact, just because he screams it doesn't mean that it's true. In fact, it isn't a fact. It's actually a lie. And I'll prove it. Let's break it down here.
We see the apparent glee some of our politicians express while watching immigrants who are in this country legally torn from the arms of their family, dragged away in handcuffs from the only home they've ever known.
Legal immigrants are not being arrested and dragged away in handcuffs from the home they've ever known. Illegal immigrants are being dragged away in handcuffs. Now, he may be thinking that some of these people were given temporary protective status under his administration, which they were, but then President Trump revoked the temporary protective status. Do you know why? Do you know why? Because it was temporary. That's what temporary means. You don't always have it. It's not going to be there. And it was revoked. It was removed. Why? Because he implemented it illegally, unethically, immorally, for no reason other than to pad the numbers of people coming into this country illegally. And instead of saying they were illegal, he just gave them temporary protective status. And this whole thing about the only country they've ever known, a good chunk of these people have only come here in the last 4 years as adults. It's just a lie. He's just lying to you. But he's Joe Biden. This is what he's done for 50 years. A little bit more.
My friends, we need to face the hard truth of this administration. It has been to ease all the gains we've made.
I believe the teleprompter actually said it was to erase all the gains we made, not ease all the gains we made. He can't read. It's because his eyes no longer function properly, or his brain no longer functions properly, or it's because he just can't read. Or, hear me out, it might be a stutter. This might be the effects of the stutter. Just saying. It wasn't ease, it was erase. In fact, I know that for a fact because the very next line has a rhetorical flourish using the same word, erase.
In my administration, to erase history rather than make it.
So Trump is looking to erase history instead of make it. I'm sorry, which is the party that tears down statues? Which is the party that renames military bases and forts? Which is the party that tries to pretend like the Civil War never happened? Which is the party who literally, and I mean literally erases history? That's what I thought. And you may not like what Donald Trump is doing. Clearly, Joe Biden doesn't. But to suggest that he's not making history in the first 6 months of his second term is, well, not true.
To erase fairness, equality, to erase justice itself. And that's not hyperbole, that's a fact.
Donald Trump is erasing justice itself because he's actually enforcing the law as it is written. You have to be Joe Biden and a Democrat or a Trump hater with TDS to believe that the president of the United States, looking at the law, I guess he's talking about immigration. So looking at our immigration law and actually adhering to the law as Congress passed it and a prior president signed it into law, and you enforce those laws, that is erasing justice. You see, to follow justice, you need to ignore the law. So says Joe Biden and his party. There's more from Joe. Scream at us some more, Joe.
I was proud to ask Kamala Harris to run with me, be the first black woman to serve as Vice President of the United States. It was important. As president, I made the cause of civil rights and equality the foundation of everything I did. For example, I promised to have an administration that looked like America.
Okay, so just put those thoughts together for a minute. As president, it was important for me to lead by example and put civil rights in the forefront of all of my decisions. I wanted a cabinet that looked like America, and that's why I was proud to make Kamala Harris the first black vice president. So she's a DEI hire. I mean, there's no other way to decipher what he's screaming at you in this speech. He is bragging about hiring Kamala Harris to show that he's got civil rights on his mind at all times. Of course, unlike his time in the Senate in the 70s when he supported busing and he said some problematic things about black students going into his kids' school. I think he called it an urban jungle, which could be interpreted kind of in a racy way, huh? But make no mistake, this is Joe Biden bragging to this audience that Kamala Harris was hired for one reason and one reason only, because she was black.
And I was proud to ask Kamala Harris to run with me, be the first black woman to serve as Vice President of the United States. It was important. As president, I made the cause of civil rights and equality the foundation of everything I did. For example, I promised to have an administration that looked like America.
There you go. I hate to break it to him, though. It's not equality if you hire someone who is less qualified for a job because their skin color is the skin color that you're looking for. That's actually the opposite of equality, but that's fine. He's a Democrat. More from Joe. Scream at us some more, you dead man.
Courts matter. The law matters. And the Constitution matters.
All right, that was unfair. He's not dead. He looks like a dead body, but he's not dead. I could hear from that really healthy cough he just gave you. He's not quite dead. He's not dead yet. He's only mostly dead. But based on his performance here, based on his vigor, based on his energy, based on his competence, I am sure he could run for 4 more years. In fact, Biden 2028. Let's go. Let's start raising money now, right? Who's with me? Who? Joe, you with me? Are you?
The law matters. And the Constitution matters. I think a lot of Americans are starting to realize that under the pressure we're under now with this guy we have as president. Oh, get ready, folks. This is just starting. I'm proud I've appointed judges doing their best to be independent, fair, and impartial, respecting the rule of law and upholding the Constitution. I wish I could say the same for the executive branch, who seems doing his best to dismantle the Constitution. Oh, I'm being deadly earnest, man.
Yeah, every time Joe Biden says I'm being deadly earnest and serious, and I'm not joking. No joke, man. You know that he says that because what he just said is not to be believed. Let me just be clear here. He's appointing judges who adhere to the Constitution. Those would be the judges who the Supreme Court are routinely overturning because they have overstepped their role as judges, trying to usurp the executive branch. And I'm sorry, this guy right now talking about following the Constitution and saying the executive branch under Donald Trump is not following the Constitution. Isn't this the guy who tried to engineer a scheme to forgive student loans with your tax dollars without having it go through Congress? And then the Supreme Court overruled it, saying it was unconstitutional. And then he did it anyway. And then when campaigning, remember when he was going to run for re-election? Those were the good old days. When campaigning, He bragged about the fact that the Supreme Court told him he couldn't do it, but he did it anyway. And now he's claiming that Trump is defying the Constitution. Just want to be clear, Joe. I just wanted to be clear on that. So Joe Biden ain't going away. You see, Joe Biden has to pay the bills. Joe Biden has a lot of kids and grandkids that he has to support. And now that Hunter isn't sitting on boards of Ukrainian oil companies or selling paintings in LA, well, someone's got to make money. And he's the only one who has any sort of opportunity to be gainfully employed as long as he's still walking the planet. Now, good for Joe, because I don't want his family to go without a roof over their head or starve or whatever. So he's got to do what he's got to do. Here's the problem. If you're Kamala Harris and you're obviously positioning yourself for 2028 with your new book out and not running for governor, Joe Biden is still going to be a problem. Remember, one of the biggest issues Kamala Harris had was when she was asked by The View, what would you do differently? And she couldn't think of anything while we were all suffering under that administration's policies. Well, that sort of dragged her down. Part of the reason why she lost is because she was burdened by the Biden administration, by the Biden policies. And until she can separate herself from that and say, yeah, you know what, I didn't have a lot to do with that. That was all Joe. She's stuck. So last night, while Joe Biden was giving this speech, screaming it at you and barely comprehending what his teleprompter said, she was on Stephen Colbert. And she was once again given the opportunity to have a little daylight between she and Joe. Did she?
Let me say something about Joe Biden. I have an incredible amount of respect for him. I think that the way that we should be thinking about where we are right now is to remember that we had a president of the United States who believed in the rule of law, who believed in the importance of aspiring to have integrity and to do the work on behalf of the people. And that's where I'll leave that.
Did people say to you, you should be prepared for this?
There were some who did, but listen, it was Joe's decision, and he made that decision.
There you go. So there's Kamala Harris once again keeping no distance between herself and Joe Biden. And any normal human being or political observer is watching that thinking, what the hell is she doing? If she really does want to run, why does she continue to embrace Joe and walk in lockstep with him? And I was wondering that myself. I mean, this was her big opportunity to sort of distance and sort of separate. It's been, 6 months since the inauguration. It's been 9-10 months since Election Day. It's like, But then this morning, I was watching the morning meeting on two-way. It's a nice thing, 9 a.m. Eastern time. Mark Halperin, Sean Spicer, and Dan Torrentine. Sean Spicer, friend of this program, friend of mine for that matter. And I fill in for Sean sometimes on this same show when he's out. And Mark Halperin, longtime DC political reporter, revealed something that I thought you might find newsworthy. I found it newsworthy. Go watch the whole show over there two-way and subscribe. But here's Mark revealing something that he has learned through his reporting about the Joe Biden-Kamala Harris relationship. What's really at play here? Is she really that loyal? Does she love that man that much that she will not say anything negative about him? Well, take a watch.
All right, I'm going to break a little news here, okay? We talk all the time about, what did Kamala Harris know and when did she know it about his cognitive decline? I will tell you, and this has never been reported barely at all, if the Biden people decide that Kamala Harris is coming after Joe Biden, wait till you hear the Palin-esque stories about how much they tried to help her be prepared to be vice president and be in a position to run, and how much they decided not happening. She's not up to this. And if the Biden people feel threatened, you will hear stories about Kamala Harris as vice president that will not make her look good. Okay, so there's a closeness to the couples. It's not like they're at war currently, but I'm telling you, if Joe Biden feels threatened, if his people feel threatened by her, this is going to escalate in a big way, and she will have a hard time defending against the stories if that dam bursts. They were extraordinary in trying to help her do the job of vice president. They gave her every opportunity.
Did you see Sean Spicer there as Halpern was revealing? Did you see this? That's how I am. That's how we all should be. That's what's happening here. The fact of the matter is Kamala Harris knows not to cross Joe Biden or Team Biden or Jill or any of them, because the second she does, they've got way too much to say about her. They worked with her. She was in their White House. She was in their administration. Don't forget that at the beginning of the 4th year, when Biden was running for re-election, there was pressure on him to dump her. People were saying, oh my God, what are we going to do? Biden can't run for re-election, but then we'll be stuck with Kamala Harris and she's a disaster. And the people who were saying that were the people in the Biden White House. Don't forget that for 3 years as she was vice president, she fumbled everything. She didn't have one accomplishment that she could point at when she was running for president in those 107 days when she was the nominee. Think about it. What did you hear from her all the time when she was giving speeches or in interviews? Well, you know, I used to be a prosecutor. When I was a prosecutor, she's not even going back to when she was in the Senate. She had nothing to say about when she was vice president. She had nothing to brag about when she was a senator. She had to go all the way back to being a prosecutor as attorney general in California or as the DA in San Francisco. She had zero accomplishments. She was a nightmare. She was a disaster. She lost staff on a monthly basis in the Biden White House, and they all know it, and they bent over backwards. They threw resource after resource after resource at her. They tried to get her up to speed. They tried to help her out. They tried to boost her. Joe Biden knew how to be a vice president. His staff knew how to be a vice president. They were all there when he was vice president to Barack Obama. So they said, okay, listen, this is perfect training ground for you. You're actually the vice president to a guy who was vice president. So we know exactly how to do the job. And she couldn't hack it. And they know it. And that's the insurance policy. She is screwed. She can't win if she's tied at the hip to Joe Biden. And she can't separate herself from Joe Biden because they will destroy her. This is awesome. And I can't wait to see how it plays out, one way or the other. Maybe the entire play here is just sell books. Either way, the Biden-Harris connection will forever be the darkest time in American politics. And yet the media and the Democrats, as you just saw, continue to celebrate them. Joe keeps getting invited for hundreds of thousands of dollars to give a speech with a tuxedo on in front of a group, and he can barely make his way through it. He just got a $10 million advance for a book, a memoir, for a guy who can't remember anything. And Kamala Harris, of course, just got her book deal as well, to write her book about a failed campaign where she will never tell the whole truth. It's good to be a Democrat in America. You get rewarded even when you're a complete and total failure. But that's fine, because over here, we keep winning on the merits. We don't need their help. And we are not tired of winning, not by a long shot. All right, guys, thanks for watching the show today. Don't forget to like us before you leave. Before you leave, like us and click that subscribe button. Hit that bell. We want you to be alerted anytime we have a new episode, especially if it's a special one you're not counting on. So like us, subscribe, and have a great weekend. Richard Murray with a $10 super chat. If Harris is writing about the shortest campaign ever, shouldn't it be about 2020? Or actually 2019. Love the glasses and shirt. Have a great weekend. Thank you. You know, I don't know why I wore these glasses early in the week and I decided to stick with them all week long, Kevin. I might go back to my transparent ones, though. They're very clunky, these glasses. Aren't they too big? Are they making shadows on my eyes? But Richard likes them, and that's all that matters. I like this shirt, too, by the way. This makes me feel like it's summertime, which it is. Thank you, guys. That was a fun show. Have a great weekend. Stay cool. Stay safe, and we will see you Monday, same time, same place. My name is Larry O'Connor, and you can call me Larry.